everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Today I'm going to talk to you about The Neighbors Are Still Renos. Anyways, today I'm going to talk about my 10 top books of the year. Now these were really hard to rank, so honestly we could just do a top 10 without a ranking, but I'm going to try to assign them a spot in the ranking of the year. And then next year hopefully I'll have a better ranking system. Since I've only been on BookTube for 6 months, I feel like I was kind of not thinking in this order before, and now I want to do that in the coming year. So we're gonna start off with the very first book, which is number 10 on the list. And it is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. Now this one, I don't know why I didn't read before this year. It's just so good. And I know some people have a problem with the storytelling format, but I really loved this. It just hit all of the good parts. I loved how it was like a trivia night, how it was a costume party, and how it followed the 3 different women and their lives, and how they're all intermingled. It was just, I thought it was a really brilliantly told mystery. And I really loved this kind of dual timeline of before the incident and then right after the incident. I thought this was a huge winner. It's my favorite Liane Moriarty, and I do love all of her books that I've read so far. So that's pretty good. But yeah, this comes in at number 10. It is just as good as I thought it would be, and it is definitely in the top list. The next one is one that I read a couple times this year actually, and that is Sense of Sensibility by Joanna Trollope. Now this one, I really enjoyed it. It's a Sense of Sensibility by Jane Austen retelling, and I loved how it modernized it, how it talked about the different aspects of the book, especially with the illnesses and how things like that are portrayed in the book, in the original source material, how it was interpreted here. It definitely just follows the story of Sense and Sensibility with Marianne and Eleanor as they go about their lives and try to survive after their father dies and basically leaves them penniless. So yeah, I really did like this modern interpretation, and it's a new favorite for sure. The next book is the only book I do not own, and that is The House on Foster Hill by Jamie Jo Wright. It was my first book by her that I read, and I could not believe how wonderful it was. It was so suspenseful and dark, and then also different levels of thriller in there, the different timelines. I thought it was really well done, and I totally loved it. I was engrossed, and it just was like a new all-time favorite Christian thriller. Honestly, it was that one. I also loved how it dealt with real hard issues, like real difficult things that people in the world face today, and I just really appreciate that. The next one is one that I didn't expect to be in my top 10, but I'm really glad it is, and that is Born Identity by Robert Ludlum. This one I picked up, I tried picking up this summer. I think I read it in July, and I really did enjoy this one. I mean, like everything else in this list, I enjoyed it, but this one was shocking in how good it was. It's spy, espionage, and I felt like I walked in knowing the movie plot line, and this covered so much more than the movie plot line. I really did enjoy the bigger characters, the bigger plot, the bigger arc, and the bigger overall problem that they are facing with is not what was in the movie. So I was still surprised at every turn, and I really enjoyed it. It doesn't look that big, but it is actually like over 500 pages. But I really loved this, and it was definitely a winner and a new favorite in my eyes. Number 6 on the list is The Lightkeeper's Daughters by Jean E. Pendzol. And this one follows it's a dual timeline. I really do love a dual timeline. But it follows these 2 sisters as they are daughters of a lighthouse keeper. And then it also goes 50 years in the future, I believe, maybe 70 years in the future, with this one girl who is in the foster system. She's really struggling, and she's struggling to have friends, and so she goes and has to serve like community service for some crimes at this retirement home, and she meets this lady there, and the stories kind of unfold. I thought it was beautiful. It has a touch of like too coincidental, but I really loved that element, and I loved the different characters, the sisterly bond in this. I just felt like it was so great. It also has a character who has autism, I believe. At least that's how it was portrayed in my eyes, and nonverbal. And it was just really interesting to see that and to see the love of the family in spite or because of the things that make her different. I really just loved seeing that representation in here, and it was such a good book. If you like anything water related, this also takes place in Canada. It's like Thunder Bay. It's just so good. And I've been to Thunder Bay myself, and so I felt like I was kind of returning. Not that I was there for long, but it felt like returning. So yeah, this one was such a good book. If you haven't heard of it or read it, pick it up. So this was number 6. The next one was one that was kind of a surprise to me. I did not think it was going to be favorite of the year list, but it totally made it in. That's the Unhiding Winners by Christina Lauren. I just really loved this one. And I find that I'm really picky with my romances about the tropes or the different things that happen. But I felt like this hit all of the right marks. And I just loved, I mean, having been in Hawaii in March and then reading this in August, I want to say, September. It was really great to go back and like see the places again, but it was also really just fun to read, and I loved this book. It was just so wonderful. The characters were really great and dynamic and interesting. They had great character arcs, and even the most annoying tropes to me that were in this book, there were many, but the one that was in there was easily understandable and easily fixed, and I really did love that. So yeah, this was definitely number 5. A shocking number 5, but a number 5, and a 5-star actually. Number 4 was probably my favorite thriller of the year, and that is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sagar. This was, I think, my favorite thriller of the year. I really enjoyed Lock Every Door by him, but as I was thinking back on the year, I'm like, this one is better. I love this one. I love the camp feel. It is just so interesting with the dual timeline again. Like I said, I love a dual timeline. And how it follows, what's her name? Emma? How it follows Emma as she is reliving camp and trying to not be terrified out of her mind at what's going on at the camp. It was just, oh, it was so suspenseful and creepy and the right notes. This was a perfect thriller for me. And I think it was amazing. I also really love anything he writes, but this is my favorite of his books, and I can't wait to see what more Riley Sagar writes. But top thriller of the year, and I could not, like, the twists were so great. I totally kind of guessed, but not at the same time, and then I was tricked out of thinking that I knew the twist. And it's a great thing when a book does that, when you think you know and then you're convinced you're not knowing. It's lovely. So yeah, this was definitely number 4 on my list. Number 3 on this list is Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie. So this one took me by surprise at how good it was. It was just the perfect dual timeline in a way, but not. Miss Marple is such a great character, and I loved the mystery elements. I loved how the different characters were developed and how the couple in this book really played off each other. I also just really enjoy Agatha Christie's writing style, but I loved how it came out in this one, especially with Miss Marple's sly remarks and quick witty things, and how it really put an emphasis on what you believe and why about certain people. So this was just, I mean, perfection, a perfect Agatha Christie, and this was definitely number 3 of the best of the year and a new favorite of Agatha Christie's in my opinion. Number 2 is a book that I have been putting off for years to read, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This one, it's everything I want in a book. It's an interesting narrator, it's an interesting perspective, it's World War II. I don't love World War II all the time, but I do enjoy it. It's a great historical fiction, and it made me feel like I was in Germany. The way it was told through Death's perspective, I knew that before, but it was even better. And it was just such a perfect book. I really could not believe how fascinating it was and how gripping, and like the illustrations throughout the book, and how it's such a long book, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like it's, I don't know, like even this with all the pages, like the blank spaces, it looks bigger than it actually is, and it feels so much shorter than it actually is. It's so quick paced and so engrossing, I would say. Definitely a new like all-time World War II or historical fiction favorite, but wow, could not believe the craziness of this book. I thoroughly loved it, and I am so glad I finally have read it this year. So now we're on to the #1 spot, and this book was actually on my top 10 favorite books of all time, and that is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikri by Gabrielle Zevin. And this one was such a wonderful book for a reader, I feel like. It follows AJ Fikri as he's a grumpy man. He's not old, but he's a grumpy man who owns a bookstore. And then one day he discovers a child was left abandoned in his store, and he starts raising her. And this book is like a short story collection of his life, which is something I don't like. I don't like short story collections, but this one I think was because they're all connected. I really loved it. And I loved how each section started with a book recommendation, and it talks about what this book is good for, and then a chapter, I think, relating to the book. And so this was just such a great, heartwarming, sad, emotional, perfect read. It has romance, it has family, it has books, it has a bookstore. And honestly, I thought this was a beautifully woven tale, and I'm really glad I read it for book club, because I wouldn't have picked it up otherwise, just because I wouldn't have thought to pick it up. But wow, it blew me out of the water, and I just am so glad I actually read it. So those are the top 10 books of the year, the 10 favorites of mine. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know down below what was your favorite book of the year, or if any of these are your favorites too, because I'd love to just gush over them. They were definitely all 5 stars and all perfect in my eyes. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow with another day of Bookmas, one of my last 2 days. I'll see you for day 23. Bye for now.